Hello, my name's Fiona from Aligned Future and we are the Lightworkers. Today I wanted to talk about people pleasing, and is it so bad? See, people pleasing has become the new thing to go after in the self-development industry. And it's like the same with, when all carbs were bad and only eat fats, and then when all fats were bad and only eat carbs. And in this industry, I've been in the self-development industry as a coach and a trainer for 10 years now. And what I've discovered is things swing in roundabouts and cycles. And often what can happen is there can be a particular buzzword, a particular thing, a personality trait that suddenly becomes like the worst thing ever, and everybody gets on the bandwagon of it. So as a former people-pleasing addict, I just wanted to have this conversation. Well, first of all, let's look at what is people-pleasing. People-pleasing at its core is a survival instinct. When we're children, when we were born, we were given an opportunity. There would have come a stage in our development where something happened and we realized, or we made a decision about who to look after in that moment. Now, for some people, in that moment, the decision was something like, nobody will look after me, so I have to look after me. And from that point on, they always made decisions that put themselves first. They kind of have this survival of the fittest mentality where it's I'll protect me and you protect you. And there's very much a self-interest, self before others focus. Now, at its extreme, that personality trait can become the narcissist that we know, the level 5 narcissist, okay? Where it's self at the expense of others, where it's literally protect self at all cost. People-pleasing is a survival instinct on the other side. So we're given the same situation, and rather than choosing to look after ourselves, we realize that in that moment, if we did something that helped others be okay, then we would be okay. Now, the fear at the core of both of these decisions is that if they are not okay, then I am not okay, or if I'm not okay, I will be kicked out of this tribe and I will die, or I won't be able to be looked after. So it's a real survival instinct. And so whatever was going on for you in your family, whatever role you took on in the tribal cycle, whether you're male or female, so many elements were at play in making this decision. People pleasing came from when that fear came up and you learned that if you took care of others, you would be safe. If you took care of others, you would be lovable. You would get significance. You would get taken care of. So there's this real survival instinct that then just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and blown out of all proportion, to the point where people pleasing at its extreme is take care of others at the expense of self. And people pleasers to the extreme would put themselves in harm's way and be the polar opposite of the level 5 narcissist. So there is a danger in being too extreme either side of the spectrum. And see, this is where my problem comes with the demonizing of people pleasing that's going on at the moment. So there's a lot of talk about, I'm going to reject being a people pleaser. It's not okay to be a people pleaser. It's not okay to have that part of me. I've got to take care of myself first, and I've got to, do all these things. And really, my concern with that is, like all things that are extreme polar opposites, if you demonize one side, then the other side must come stronger. So think about good versus bad, light versus dark. There's this real sense of there can only be people-pleasing or self-pleasing. And when we think about, survival of the fittest, or this society myth that we had, that even Darwin, when he figured it out, knew it was wrong, was this survival of the fittest mentality, that is the side of self before others, or self at the expense of others mentality. But what we're discovering more and more is that we live in a collaborative universe. We live in a synergistic universe where people and things coexist together. And if you can be your uniqueness and they can be their uniqueness, we can actually support each other in this level of balance. Okay, so there's actually no need to be self-preserving at the expense of everything else, because that's a lot of what's causing some of the problems that we have. Think about when we start to, if we all stop pleasing others, then we stop taking care of others. Now, if it's everybody is out for themselves, is that a world that you want to live in? For me, it's not. So there's an element of people pleasing, of taking care of others, of kindness, and those traits of a people pleaser, the compassion and the being there, the empathy for others, that is really important in our world. So if we demonize and suppress people pleasers, what can happen is anything that is suppressed will ultimately come back up in probably a really yucky kind of a way. Or we can end up with these people that are just very selfish and very self-centered and doing it in a way that isn't taking care of themselves, others, or the greater good. Okay? Or the very simple fact is, if you've been a people pleaser your whole life and now all of a sudden it's bad and it's wrong and you shouldn't do that, you're kind of setting yourself up to fail, to immediately jump from one end of the pendulum to the other end of the pendulum. It won't be sustainable. You've got to find a middle ground. You've got to find a way where it's okay to embrace and accept your strengths as a people pleaser and figure out who and how we should be pleasing people. So when we think about it, the strengths of a people pleaser is the kindness, it's the care, it's the demonstration of that care, it's the taking care of people, it's compassion. A lot of people who resonate with being an empath or a light worker or a starseed or any of these very spiritual terms often really resonate with taking care of others. It's a very nurturing energy. So a lot of mothers have a tendency to be people pleasers as well, doing more for others than they will do for themselves. So it's about recognizing first off that there is a lot of strength in being a people pleaser. So it's not all bad. It's only bad if you're over functioning. If you're doing so much for others that they aren't given the space to learn how to do it for themselves. It's like wrapping your kids up in cotton wool and hoping that they'll always be safe, but one day you're not going to be there in their lives. So if you haven't taught them how to take care of themselves, it's actually more dangerous for them in the long run. Okay? So really about accepting the strengths of pleasing others. And as well, accepting that when we look at what creates fulfillment in our lives, contribution is a huge part of fulfillment. So this is where a lot of the conflict, and it's what started me thinking, in this personal development, self-help industry, there is talk of don't be a people pleaser. But at the same time, those same people are telling you to go and build a business that's bigger than you, or live a life for others, or realize that your life is not your own, or, with a big enough why for others, you can take care of anyhow. So can you see that those two are kind of in conflict? And for me, I couldn't reconcile the conflict. So I realized that demonizing people pleasing does not help with the contribution that ultimately leads to fulfillment. We want to make people happy. Think about a time when you really made someone happy and how good that feels. Making other people happy can be one of the most selfish, self-indulgent things we can do, because when you truly make people happy and they're grateful for it, wow, that is rewarding. I just think about all the times I've got beautiful messages from clients or anyone that I've been able to help, and it does feel amazing. So that's about recognize the strengths of pleasing others, of taking care of others, and realize that it's not about demonizing people pleasing. It's not about cutting that out of your life and trying to be someone that you're not. It's never going to work. What it is learning how to integrate that effectively into your life and do it in a really sustainable and resourceful and healthy way that's good for you, good for others, and ultimately good for the greater good. So how do we do that? So step one is we've got to decide who to please. In most cases that I've looked at and most people that I've got to know with that are trying to help us through this people-pleasing thing, in most cases, it's not the fact that they want to be kind and caring and helping and pleasing to others that's the problem. The problem is who they are doing that to. And in so many cases, they're trying to please people that don't want to be pleased or actually have no way of reciprocity. There's no reciprocity there. So that means that they go out of their way to do so much for these people to try and please them at the expense of themselves because there's nothing coming back. And the universe is about flow. We are meant to be able to give and receive. Now, so we have to decide who to please and who not to please, and then think about how to do that, okay? So, who not to please? We'll start there. Who not to please is anyone who doesn't want it. So yes, everybody does deserve to be loved. Everybody does deserve to have a great life. Everybody does deserve your help, probably. But if they don't want it, don't give it. Now, this can be really challenging when you first start in this industry and you first start learning about yourself and you start learning all these amazing tools and you think, I've got the secret, I want to share it with the world. Hold back. Because if people don't want it, they're not ready for it, then it doesn't matter how right you are, it's not going to sink in. So be very discerning. Only give to those who want to receive. Only give to those people who want it. Okay, and you can tell this because they'll ask for it. If people don't ask for you to give to them, don't give to them. And if you observe areas of your life, you're going to notice so many times when you've really become very over-functioning, you've been giving so much and giving and giving and giving. And if you just take a step back, or if you observe yourself and particularly find areas where you feel very burnt out, where you've been giving so much and getting nothing back in return, and just check in. Did they ask for your help? What you may find is anywhere that you are over-functioning and giving too much, you are creating them to under-function, which means that they don't need to step up, so they never learn how to step up. In particular with children, if you're a mum and you're always doing everything for them, think about how are they going to be functional when you're not there anymore. You know, if you're always doing your kids' cooking or cleaning, how are they going to take care of themselves? So it's actually not helping them to give too much in that space, okay? So if people don't ask for it and don't want it, don't give, don't offer. Just wait for people to ask for it. And the second is they've got to be grateful. Again, everybody deserves to be given to, everybody deserves to be taken care of. We were all born love. But if people aren't saying thank you for it, then they didn't want it, or they've just never learned to gratefully receive. And think about how it feels when you give to someone who says thank you. How much more do you want to give to them? So much, right? And now think about the time when you gave to someone and they weren't grateful for it. They didn't say thank you. They didn't return the favor. They just took it and they expected more and more and more. When people aren't grateful, it's like trying to fill a bottomless pit. You'll never fill it. So stop trying. Stop giving to anyone who doesn't say thank you, and just become aware of how much more energy that leaves you with. So we're going to think about giving and people pleasing as a bit of a pipeline. If you're always giving out and nothing's coming in, then you're going to dry up. And you cannot help people, which is what people pleasing is. You can't help people. You can't give to others if you have nothing left to give. If you're not allowing that reciprocity, then you have nothing left to give, okay? Or if they're just not offering it, you're going to dry up. So stop giving to anyone who doesn't give back to you, okay? And don't give to anyone if it is at the expense of yourself. or somebody else. So what can also happen is, and I remember this when I was trying so hard to be friends with people. I was people pleasing. I'd suppressed a huge part of me, and I just kept trying to fit in and trying to fit in. And looking back, what I discovered was there were people that loved me. There were people that were there for me, that would, loved me at my worst, loved me at my best, just love me in my life. And I was ignoring them. I would, in particular case, one of my dearest friends was at home and had slaved all day and had cooked dinner and done all these things for me. And I stood them up because this person that really didn't deserve my friendship and I was just trying to please them. It was a kind of a popularity contest, and they'd said they needed something. So I dropped everything with the person who was there for me, and I tried to overfunction with this person who was never going to return the favor at the expense of those people who were going to love me unconditionally. And just observe where perhaps you do this. Are there times when you're giving to someone at the expense of your own health? Or giving to someone at the expense of your own family or those people that do love you. So be very mindful. Who are you giving at the expense of? And if you discover that you're giving to someone at the expense of someone who is grateful and does want it, you got to change the focus there. Okay? So now, who do you want to please? Who do you be a people pleaser for? Now, this comes back to relationships. You want to be a people pleaser for those relationships that bring you the most joy and are the most prominent in your life. So if you were living a beautiful, ideal life full of joy and fulfillment and happiness and passion, who would be a part of that life? Now, most important person, there is one relationship in your life that is your longest relationship. This is the person who will be with you from the day you were born to the day you die. This is the person that will be with you through every other failed relationship, bad day, good day, high and low in your entire life. This is the person you must learn to please as much or more than anybody else. Figure out who it is. It's you. There is only one relationship that will last and sustain beyond all else. And it is usually the one that people pleasers sacrifice the most. It is the relationship with ourselves. So this has to be the person that you please the most. It has to be you. Because if you want to live a joyous life, then that means you are living a pleased and happy life. So contributing to yourself will bring that fulfillment. First and foremost, if it doesn't align with you and be congruent with you, then it has to stop. Strength comes from that honesty and congruence within us. And what happens if we're people pleasers is so often we are compromising things for ourselves to do more for others. So this is where weakness comes in. If you ever have done any kinesiology and you learn about muscle testing, you know that a muscle, if you're telling the truth, a true statement, nothing can bring that down. Nothing can move your muscles. But if you're telling a lie statement, it's easily able to be moved down. So it's about the strength and the congruency within our bodies. So if you want to be strong, to give more, to help more and contribute more, that strength has to start within you. So you have to start making decisions that don't sacrifice your strength, that don't compromise your truth, your integrity, and your core. And often as people pleasers, we find ourselves out of our integrity because to please someone means going against our core or going against our truth. So that has to be the first person that you begin to look at is yourself. And the second is for the people who bring you joy, those beautiful close relationships who just love you, who resonate with you, who resonate with your uniqueness and your truth and your strength. So remember, the survival instinct that created the people pleasing is about fitting in. And if you're constantly trying to fit into a tribe where your uniqueness is not celebrated, you'll always be having to sacrifice that part of you and be a people pleaser to them. Imagine if you turned all of that compassion and kindness and generosity to a tribe of people that are as compassionate and kind and generous as you, who want to give you as much as you give them, who are grateful for it, who bring you joy because whenever you share with them, they apply it, they teach it, they go and do it. And then they in turn help more people, and they in turn help more people. Isn't that an extraordinary thing? Isn't that a wonderful experience and feeling when you help someone and allows them to live a joyous and fulfilled life as well? These are the people you should commit to pleasing, and only them. Yourself first, because if you don't take care of you, you've got nothing left to give to these people. And then the people that are inspired by you taking care of you. Okay, I trust that kind of makes sense. Now, this is a bit of a challenge though for people pleasers, because the other part to this is you've got to put yourself first and at the expense of everybody else. For a people pleaser, that is a huge step. And usually too far. And usually it means becoming something you actually don't want to be, so you'll reject that. Okay? So it's important that when you get to this stage, the first step is to start treating yourself equally. So remember, people that you don't want to hang out with are not grateful. So just check in. Are you grateful? Do you say thank you when people give to you, or do you push them away? Are you treating yourself as kindly as you treat others, or are you treating yourself maybe not so kindly? So think about it. Would the world be a better place if everybody treated everybody the way you treat people? And as a people pleaser, usually you're so kind and so generous and so caring that if everybody treated people that way, the world would be a pretty good place to live. Would the world be a better place if everybody treated people the way you treat you? So think about that for a moment. If everybody treated each other the way you treat yourself, letting yourself down, compromising on your values, doing more for others at the expense of yourself, sacrificing your own health or happiness for others, would that be a good place? What about when you get to that stage where you're so incongruent that you're beating up on yourself because you can't please people? However you are treating yourself, think about, would the world be a better place? And if the answer is yes, then treat others the same way. And if the answer is no, then it's time to change things. So as a people pleaser, begin to treat yourself the way you treat others. And in most cases, that usually means you're going to treat yourself kinder than you have been. You're going to be more generous to yourself than you have been. You're going to take care of yourself better than you have been. You're going to be more grateful than you have been when people try and do things for you, and you're going to allow it. So you can't receive gratitude unless you're ready to allow it. And if you're constantly over-functioning and pleasing, then nobody can please you. Okay? So really look at this from this point of view. Start to figure out, if you are going to please you, what does that look like? What is your ideal average day? Go refer to the ideal average day class and start to define, what is your ideal average day? How would that look? Who would you surround yourself with? And begin to honor that in you. Stop tolerating anyone that doesn't fit within that. Stop tolerating over-functioning for people who don't want it, and just start observing that they're actually okay. They will be fine. Start shifting your attention to those who do deserve you to please them. Yourself first and others. So if you, in the beginning, start thinking about it this way. You're going to treat yourself and others equally. So if there's a decision to be made, make the decision that allows you to take care of yourself, because usually if you do that, it takes care of others. But if you do it equally, find a way to take care of self and others equally in that decision. And if you reach a sticking point, then choose the outcome or the decision that allows you to take care of the greater good. So there's yourself, others, and the greater good. So there'll be days when taking care of yourself, you maybe do have to stretch yourself a little bit further. Or there'll be days when you actually do maybe need to just step up a little bit more or try a little bit harder. There'll be days when you need to step back a little bit more or try a little bit less. So really consider, what is me treating myself and others equally, and what is best for the greater good? And you'll find it may tip. So what you can find is we think that helping others and overfunctioning for others is helping them. But if we really look at the greater good, what are you denying them? Or what are you denying in you? So noticing when we embrace our uniqueness, when we take care of ourselves and make ourselves our number one person to please, and our people that bring us joy, we're going to create more of that joy. We're going to create more fulfillment and a happier place to be. And then allow the ripples to expand from there. So people pleasing, learn to accept it. Learn to love it. Don't demonize it. Just integrate it and make sure you're pleasing the right people in the right way. I trust this has been valuable. I'm sure we'll have many more conversations on this topic. Would love your thoughts or comments or questions. In the meantime, take care of you, take care of others, take care of the greater good. Enjoy the journey. Bye for now.